KFIZ News Time at 8:09. And welcome in to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. Taking your phone calls this morning. The phone lines are open at 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. Patty from Master Gardener Program is here, along with Ron Rademann. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. New face here.
Yeah, it's
Nick.
been a while.
We have Nick. It's
been a while.
It's been quite a while.
Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah, but it wasn't towards the end of the year either.
Right. No, it was early on in the year. So we were just talking before. You guys are open today. What a great day for that, huh?
Yeah, well, what a difference a week can make around here in Wisconsin, that's for sure. You know, we were dealing with snow last weekend and rain, and now 70 today, or awful close to it in the next few days. So that's always exciting.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, Rademann's is open today, so you can stop on out. Make sure you get there before noon. But I already heard they're already full for deliveries for today, which doesn't totally surprise me.
Yeah.
So yeah, you aren't going to be able to get a delivery, but you could stop on out and pick out your product for Monday.
Right. And Patty, you've got the Master Gardener Program, and you guys got some things going on. So let's quickly talk about those.
Yes. So currently the Master Gardener's plant sale is gearing up, ready to go. It's going to be May 11th from 9 to 3, and we're going to have lots of new and exciting varieties of tomatoes and peppers that we trial and start for people that you can't find those in a nursery anywhere. Usually they just plant the popular 3 different varieties, and then if you want to try something really great and unique and a better producer, a lot of times we'll have that for you. And I also want to have, I need more people to come out and do the community garden. We're still looking for more plot rentals because it's a little early and people aren't really into the gardening mode yet. So we're still taking registrations, and it's really easy to come out there and have a nice garden spot for the summer.
And it's coming quick.
Yeah.
Planting season's just about here.
Yeah. I think if spring really stays now, we're going to have the beginning of May, we're going to be having gardens ready to go. So get your registrations in. It's still early.
923-1450. 1-888-900-1450. Those are the numbers that you can call us. Also, you can email us, kfizstudio@gmail.com. If being on the radio isn't your thing and you just want to send an email in, we'll get that on the air, and we've got one already. So Brian has written in, I have never grown radishes and beets. I started some in the house a few weeks back. When can I plant them outside?
You probably would have been better off planting them outside now or soon because they do not do any transplanting. You can't transplant beets or radishes or, for instance, any ground root annual vegetables because they don't transplant. It's a good time in about 2 weeks, probably, to just stick them right in the soil and don't start things like that in the house.
Start them from seed outside in a couple weeks.
Yeah, because like potatoes and things that grow in the ground and our root crop do not transplant. It's a losing battle.
All right, so let's just play the devil's advocate, because now we got the poor guy here that worked so hard for the last month on these plants in his house.
Yeah.
Is it worth his, should he just take a stab at it and try it, or
no, it's
not even, just might as well keep them indoors and maybe you'll get some beets and radishes right out of your indoor garden?
I don't know that if he puts them outside every day, it's possible that, and they're in like a peat pot. Mm-hmm. A peat pot might might work, but I would put them out every day to get them
Just keep.
acclimated.
Well, he could move them outside
Yeah, in and
almost
out.
permanently.
Well, when I'm warm, if it stays warm at night, you can't let something like that out if it's going to be a frost or something like that. That would do them in for sure.
So gradually put them outside.
Yeah.
As the weather changes here, hopefully for the better.
Yeah.
And then, but not even bother putting them in the garden.
Well,
now, if they were in peat pots, he could put them in the garden.
Then you could. It's worth a shot.
Because then you got a plantable pot.
Yes.
So that you could do then.
I
but
would
if they're in a tray that you're planning to pull them out.
If you got to dig them out of a tray and then put them in the soil, no, that's not gonna. I'm afraid.
Well, it'll be fun to hear back from them in about a month or so, and let us. So
plant some from seed, and then
Yes.
try and see what happens.
And
probably just replant. Because you're probably going to get a better crop, is what Patty's saying, by
Right.
just starting all over in a couple of weeks, just planting them outside in the garden.
And I would, if you still have those in the pots, in their peat pots, plant them the same time you plant the seeds, and I bet you the seeds will do better.
All right, that's our first question through 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. If you got any questions, give us a call. And what do you want to talk about, Ron? I'm sure you've got several things on your mind.
Probably the one thing I was noticing just on the way into the show this morning was like some of the trees are starting to have leaves on. Now, like I noticed it with the Japanese tree lilacs kind of as I was coming down Main Street. And, they got tiny, tiny leaves on right now. They're going to have real leaves on probably by Monday.
Yeah.
It's so
because
exciting.
a couple days of 60s and 70s here over the next 3 days. So that'll be a little bit different.
This is my favorite time of year.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because...
and then everything kind of starts in from there.
Magnolias are budding and
well, I was going down 4th Street,
Yeah.
and there was a tree in full bloom, flowers and everything. And I'm like, wow. It was the only one that I've seen.
Yeah.
But it looked great. Right by the baseball fields on 4th Street.
Yeah, the magnolias, the cornelian cherries and the witch hazel, they're finished flowering already. Forsythias are pretty much finished up. Now, this is Fond du Lac here where we're talking. We have people listening from all over, so it's always a little bit. But yeah, so that part of it, and then with. So that kind of takes us into one of the problems everything is so time sensitive. You could still spray like a dormant oil on some trees and plants, but not everything.
Fruit trees, you mean?
Yeah. On fruit trees, you still could because there's no, leaves or flowers yet there. I always kind of think, I just noticed some like some of the magnolias, they'll have like black on them, and that would be good to spray your magnolia right now. Even if it's got flowers, you could use a dormant oil, but not leaves. So you could still spray a magnolia right now yet. It would have been better to do it a week or two ago. But, we kind of run into deadlines on some of the pines have scale in it. You can kind of tell if you have scale, if you see like white specks on it almost looks like your pine is, frosted. Well, it's nice on a Christmas tree in the house, but it's not good for your evergreen outside. So if you see that scale on it, you're kind of right down to the end, get out there and get that sprayed right away with a dormant oil, because you can't really. And you will see it on like some, I was in somebody's backyard a couple days ago, and I was noticing it on their dogwood. They had some scale on dogwood. And some of those, you just can't, if you miss this opportunity, there's nothing you can do. The scale will be there till next year
What does it do to the tree if it's?
Well, scale is just a tiny speck of an insect that sucks the energy kind of right through the bark of the plant, So what'll happen is it just, the leaves won't be as big, it won't grow as vigorously. No matter how much you fertilize it, it's still gonna, be weak.
What is the black that you see on a magnolia? What is that?
That's it's like it's like a
Fungus.
a fungus, but it's more. I don't even know what it actually. In most cases, it doesn't really matter what the names of these insects are. It's just and because you just got to if you've got a problem on needles of evergreens or problem on bark, the best spray is that dormant oil spray, and because none of the other insecticides that we have will really work properly. We'll be talking about 8 as an insecticide to use coming up, but you have to, again, it's a little early for some of these things. So everything is so, time sensitive.
Would dormant oil spray affect gypsy moth or anything?
Actually,
the
masses, it will, I don't know if that's the exact best one to use, but it sure wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
It could suppress them even, in a lot of these things, you don't have to kill every last insect.
It helps.
But if you knock the population down, to a manageable, and like on gypsy moth, if you have those egg masses and if you'd use dormant oil on those, and it would kill off, 80 or 90% of them, it'd probably be enough to solve the problem.
For some reason, they decided to change it to spongy moth. Which I don't.
That's right.
I thought of that after I said it, but because I was confused when they started talking about spongy moth. And
what next? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The same thing too. But gypsy moth or spongy moth or moss or moth is all the same. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
923-1450, 1-888-900-1450. If you've got a question, you can also email us, kfizstudio@gmail.com. We've got a moment that we're going to step aside and take a break. Ron, tell us what's going on.
Well, Rademann's is open the first Saturday of the season, so that's always exciting. It's kind of like opening day for the Brewers, I guess. Right. I don't know. Maybe not quite that exciting.
You tailgating out there too?
Yeah, well, maybe we should be thinking about doing stuff like that. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea. But we're just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac on 41 east on County B.
KFIZ News Time, 8:24. Landscape Smart presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. 40 degrees and sunshine out there today. Great day to do some work out in the yard. Get ready for the hopefully warmer weather. So 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. That's the phone numbers that you can call if you just want to email us a question. You can also do that, kfizstudio@gmail.com. And I was leaving the house this morning. Between a little bit of the snow, the rain that we've had, the grass is starting to get green, and it's almost time to start mowing lawn. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's getting close, and what that kind of means is you're pretty much to the end of the dethatching process and all of that part of it. You're gonna you kind of have to move on now. If you didn't get these things done, it's too late. If you missed. If you missed step 1, you got to move on to step 2. And there too, I wouldn't, if you'd be doing step 1 at this point in time, you're kind of throwing your money away. So, move right on to step 2 at this point in time. Step 2 is going to be a fertilizer application together with a weed killer. And even if you can't quite see the weeds there yet, they're there. So you might as well move on to step 2, and like if you do end up with some crabgrass later in the season, then there are some herbicides that you can spray that have some crabgrass killer in it. So that's going to be your best way to go. you can't really kill crabgrass yet because it's germinated and it's just starting to grow, but it's not, you can't really see it yet. But it's going to be too late to do any, for step one, which would have the crabgrass preventer in. So, you looked like you were going to say something, Patty.
Well, it's just for your flower gardens and things like that. You can go around and start. I don't know. This is about when I cut things back. Really, I don't cut them back in fall. I cut things back in spring because it's just. Some of the grasses, especially, they're beautiful over
That's
the
what
winter.
I like to do is do it more in spring.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I actually
yeah.
did this past week at home was cut the grass. My ornamental grasses back. You want to catch those here now, as they're starting to grow, so that so that you don't have the dead, dry.
Yeah, that's.
Blades there for the summer. So again, it's very timely. You want to get out there, and if you still have a grass that you haven't trimmed, get that, an ornamental grass. Now we're talking
right.
here, not your lawn. You don't have to hurry out to mow quite that quick, but the ornamental grasses need to be cut back right away.
And this is a perfect time to dig and divide any perennials that have overtaken their space and share them with, it's not a good idea to share them with friends because you don't know for sure if you might have a couple of stray jumping worms that you can't really tell that are, an infestation yet. So it's not recommended that people share perennial cuttings and divisions. Cuttings is okay, but divisions you can't because for our Master Gardener plant sale, when we dig perennials and have them at the sale, we do a jumping worm test in our soils and certify that they're jumping worm-free dug gardens before we can resell them at our plant sale. So, but that's what I'm doing right now. It's my favorite time of year.
923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450 is the phone lines. Are wide open right now. A lot of times towards the end of the show, we start to fill up with calls. So get in early here.
Usually it seems the way it works.
Yeah, then we run out of time. So.
Yeah, if you have any, daffodils are coming up. Tulips are going to get ready and blooming. Tulips are getting ready. You can, if you want to divide up any of those, as soon as they're done blooming, you can dig them up and move them around in different spots if you'd like to. Because if you wait until fall to do that, like August, beginning August, middle to end of August, you're not going to know where they are.
Right.
So I'd like to do it right after they're done flowering and then leave the leaves on so that they can continue to soak up the chlorophyll and store energy for the next flower.
All right.
Make sure you leave some of the, as much dirt on as you can. Kind of dig them out as a clump, not as the bulb yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Good morning. You're on KFIZ.
Good morning. I have 2 maple trees that nothing grows underneath them. I would like to put decoration under them. Is there a certain amount of the tree trunk I need to leave untouched so it doesn't hurt the tree?
Yeah, that's kind of a great question because, as I drive around town, I see people that do make that mistake. And, yeah, you don't want any, and let's just kind of back right up, with a maple, you're fighting, again, a losing battle if you try to plant grass seed underneath a maple, if it's especially a larger maple that has the roots are so close, the grass can't compete generally. And then the combination of the tree roots and the shade is just a tough battle for most grasses. So even the shady blends that we have out at Rademann's aren't going to do well underneath a maple. So I like the way you think, put some decorative mulch around it, shredded bark. There's a lot of different textures and colors there, and you could use some of the dyed and the finer shredded ones work good in that case, because all you need is an inch or so just to kind of cover up what's going on and prevent the dirt and soil from splashing and things like that. But then, as you do, like you said, don't put the bark up so close to the trunk that it's actually covering the bark of the tree. Leave it away an inch or so, or a couple inches, because that's, you can create problems there by having that bark, mounded up. And so make sure it looks like a donut and not like a volcano is kind of the, and as, it's sad as I drive around town, and it doesn't matter which town you're in, and you see that where people have heaped that bark mulch up against the trunk of the tree, and you just know that within a few years
go talk to those people. But well, you could also plant a few like hostas or shade-loving plants around it too, if you'd like, to add some, foliar decorations underneath it.
Yeah, there are a lot of good, shade.
Yeah.
Shade-loving shade. Again, they don't like thrive because they got the shade, but they also, they do still have the roots to compete with. Yeah. And the maple is usually pretty densely rooted.
Hostas are pretty tough.
Yeah, well, you can pretty much do a hosta most anywhere. Yeah. Yes. But yeah, some of the other, it can be, it has to be shade tolerant, and then it has to be a tougher plant to, beside that. Sure.
Yeah.
Good. Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
All right. Mm-hmm. Thanks for calling.
Bye.
923-1450, 1-888-900-1450. And again, KFIZ studio at gmail.com if you want to drop us an email on it. So good question.
Yeah, because and you want to be, let's kind of go back to that as long as we're on that subject. If you just keep applying mulch year after year after year, that's not always good either. What you want to do is put that inch or so of mulch down, and then you can do that another year and maybe another year. And then after 2 or 3 years, it's best to clean all that old mulch out of there before you remulch it. The mulch breaks down.
Yeah, the roots need to be closer to the surface on a lot of those trees, and it's not healthy to have a thick.
Well, and what'll happen actually is the roots will keep coming up.
Yeah.
And then you end up with girdling root problems. And I talked to a couple this earlier this week, and they called up and they had what happened to our tree type of thing, and after they described what was going on, I could tell what was going wrong.
That happens if people plant trees too deep too. The same thing.
Right. And if you keep adding mulch and don't ever take it away, it has the effect of planting the tree too deep.
Yep.
So that's why you put mulch on for 2 or 3 years and then clean it all off, all the old, the bark mulch, wood mulch that's kind of broken down and turned into soil. It makes great soil too.
Yeah,
put it in your garden.
Yep.
And then put fresh mulch down. And if you're cleaning off some of those fine roots that are up there, that's okay too. It's good kind of to clean those up. So you're not hurting the tree, you're helping the tree if you're cleaning up that old mulch and cleaning up some of those, too close to the surface roots.
Yeah, there's too many people planting trees that are way deeper than they should be, and those trees don't survive much past about, I don't know, maybe 10 years.
Yeah, they'll start declining.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If they're planted too deep. And a lot of times, it's you have to be super careful when you're planting too, because if it's a potted tree, a lot of times there's like dirt on top of the root system, and you have to clean the top part of that dirt out of the pot before you plant it. And again, you're going to hit some small roots. Get rid of those and get down to where the crown of the tree is.
They call it the root flare.
The flare, you have to be able to see that flare.
And that should be right at ground level when you plant it.
Or up a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And, if you observe trees, I can drive down a street and I can tell exactly which ones, they're street trees, they're planted in the terrace between the sidewalk and the curb. And you'll drive down the street and these were all planted the same day, 7 years ago or 10 years ago.
Yep.
And some of them will be, 20 feet tall and 4 inch in diameter, and some are only 2 inches in diameter and 12 feet tall. And you'd think, well, why aren't they all the same? Well, when they were planted, the one that's small like that was just planted about an inch deeper than the other one.
Oh, interesting.
And 1 inch or 2 inches makes all the difference in the world.
And by looking at the trunk where it meets the soil, if it looks like it's a post stuck in the ground, it's too deep.
Right. You have to be able to see where like Patty said, the root flare. You have to watch for that root flare. And if and a lot of the trees are grafted, so they'll have a bud union or a little bulb. And again, that bulb should be a couple inches above the grade. Mm-hmm. So, and you have to be a little careful even when you're planting if they settle. When you're planting a tree, don't dig the hole. You dig it dig it wide enough that you can get your heel and your foot down in there and pack that dirt around it. But you don't necessarily need to dig it any deeper than what you need to. It seems like every time you think, well, I should dig it deeper and get rid of this poor soil, all you end up is putting, the wrong soil underneath the tree. Then it settles, and then it would have been better off having poor soil under there than good soil that settles. So.
KFIZ News Time, 8:38. Since we got a little bit of a break, we're going to take a break here. Ron, tell us a little bit about Rademann's.
So, you can stop on out to Rademann's and get your choices are endless as far as colors and bark mulch and decorative stone and things like that. Pick out whichever one you like. Some are, there's natural cedar or different, all the different blends of hardwood mulch.
KFIZ News Time, 8:41. It's Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. 2 ways you can get a hold of us. First, via the phone, 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. If being on the air is not your thing, you just want to drop us an email, you can do that as well, kfizstudio@gmail.com. We were talking just before the break a little bit about planting trees. Is there a time of year, not a good time of year? Tell us a little bit about when people should plant trees.
Well, you definitely can right now. This is the ideal time right now, and there's we have other ideal times too, depending on, but I always my theory is always the best time to plant a tree is today, not tomorrow. And
that's it.
And the quicker you get it in the ground, the quicker it starts rooted in, and the quicker it starts growing. And it really doesn't do you much good to if you're going to it's better to plant a 12-foot tree now than a 15-foot tree in 3 years, because you're going to have the same tree, and then you're just going to have paid twice as much for it.
Well, it's going to the smaller they are, I think they grow faster. If they're I don't know.
That's kind of
the younger.
Everybody always says that. They never really catch up. A tree that's 20 years old is still going to be a tree that's going to be bigger than a tree that's 15 years old.
Okay.
So if you plant a tree that's 5 years old, now you get the perception that, okay, they catch up, but that's because if you plant a 3-foot tree right now, let's just say you're going to plant a 3-foot blue spruce.
Yeah.
Or Black Hills spruce or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you'd plant a 7-foot Black Hills spruce right next to your, well, in 20 years, it looks like it caught up, and it kind of did catch up in a way, because now one tree is 20 feet tall and one is 24 feet tall. So it's still 4 feet shorter.
Yeah.
So, but it's just not as noticeable. So, so it didn't really, grow as fast or faster than the bigger, the larger one. You've lost those 4 years of growth. It just isn't quite as important anymore.
Yeah.
Now that both trees are 20 feet tall.
It's easier to get them going if they're small. I think they don't need as much water.
No, and see, that's a little bit of a that's wrong also.
Okay.
Because here's what happens, Patty. If you have an older tree, you have a larger root system and a deeper root system. So when we, as most of you all know now, I kind of wear two hats, and part of it is growing trees.
Yeah.
And we lose a lot more small ones than big ones.
Okay.
And it's exponentially, when we buy small trees in and plant them, if we can get 85%, 90%, we're pretty happy.
Do you buy them already rolled and burlapped or bare root? How do you get them in?
Well, we do every one a little bit different. For the most part, I like planting smaller, when we're first starting out, smaller container grown evergreens or smaller container grown plants. And that's just more of a convenience. You kind of have a little better, and I'm not saying that's the best for everybody. That works out the best when you're in business, because you have the timing. If you're going to have, if you're retired and you have all and the timing works out, then bare root is fine. But you're at the kind of the whims of the weather. And if you order bare root trees or you plant bare root trees, and then pretty soon the weather turns sour, and this year would have been a great example. All of a sudden, we get all this nice weather the end of February and March. Everybody says, oh, I better quick go out and get my bare root trees. Well, about the time you got them in, the weather turned bad. And now you're dealing with bare root trees that need to get planted literally within a few days.
Yeah.
And so that's why, we plant mostly smaller container, because that just buys us time.
Yeah.
And then we can repot them into bigger pots, plant them out in the field or whatever we do. But, every step of the process, you have better success to a point, where once we're planting, and it all goes together too. You have to make sure that if you're buying a bigger tree that has a inferior root system or a small pot, and so you have to make sure you're matching up properly there. And the key there is, if you're buying a plant at Stewart's, for example, or Touch the Earth or Country Touch or any of the, the local landscape contractors, and we're familiar with a lot of the other landscape contractors throughout Wisconsin and the Midwest also, but those places are going to make sure that they have the proper size ball on the proper size, the right tree. Yeah. And on the other hand, if you've got a corner garden center that pops up, what they're doing, or they're only open seasonably, and I don't like to use any names, but they're getting their plants shipped in from further south, further west, and of course, every time you add shipping on, if you can get 1,000 trees on a load, instead of 500, the freight is half.
Right.
Let's
Right,
just,
yeah.
it's real simple math. So what they do is they buy trees that have, smaller pots, smaller root balls, and of course, then they can be more competitive price-wise
Right.
because they have less in freight than what, a local landscape contractor would have. But they also have less, and that's where
survival rate, yeah.
and that's where the survival rate really is different.
I prefer to buy something bare root, say for instance at Young's, than go to a box store and buy a potted tree.
Yeah, well, you just have to be a good shopper,
Yeah.
and the top has to match the bottom.
Right,
Let's
right.
just put it this way. And the other problem is if you have too small of a ball, it's easier to dig the hole, but now you have to stake the tree.
Yeah.
So what was easier?
Yeah.
You can either spend the extra 10 minutes digging the hole, or you can spend 20 minutes, staking the tree because there isn't enough root ball to hold it in place.
Yeah.
And, you'll notice that, a lot of landscape contractors that plant larger trees, they don't stake them.
Yeah.
It's just not necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have
Root
proper
ball.
size root ball on the tree, it isn't necessary to stake them.
You're right.
And, and I shouldn't say that. 99% of the time, it isn't necessary to stake them. If you stake them, or you planted them like the day before yesterday, and then we had 40-mile-an-hour winds like we had yesterday, and you had just planted it and watered it, well, I guess
Yeah.
that now you probably should have staked it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen very often. And usually, like right now, as you're planting at this time of year or during the summer months, the ground temperatures are warm, and you plant it, and within a 10 days or a week or 2 weeks for sure, it's rooted out, and it won't, even if you get that 40-mile-an-hour day, it won't blow over.
Yeah.
So
All right. We got a question that was emailed in. So
Sure.
please tell me how to take care of my clematis at this time. Trim back, fertilize, mulch, also hydrangeas.
Okay. You if you have hydrangeas, those you trim back, trim out all the flowers, because I leave mine on all winter. They're beautiful. Trim back all the flowers and trim down to an outward-facing bud. For those, you can mulch or you don't have to mulch those. It's up to you. What else? What else?
well,
Clematis.
let's finish on the hydrangeas though, because like right now, again, it's kind of key. You should be seeing those buds starting to green up, and if you're not seeing the buds yet, then just wait another week. But because then you can kind of see, like Patty said, look for the buds. If you can get an outward facing one instead of inward, that kind of opens up the plant better. But and then
Some of them are really large. Like my limelight was like going on 8 feet tall.
Wow.
And I thought, that's taking over a little too much space. So I trimmed that one back with the dead flower buds just recently because of the size. I needed to bring down size. So that you can do that without looking for an outward facing bud. But when you want to prune it up and shape it, look for that.
And then the other
clematis-
question, clematis.
Clematis, there's different varieties. If you can go online and research which variety you have, some of them want pruning all the way to about a foot or a little more, and some of them just want you to trim off some of the dead parts and leave it. So there's several different varieties or types of pruning that you need to do for clematis, depending on variety. And those is always good to mulch because they need cool roots to be really productive. And was there anything
No,
else?
that was it. Yep.
Okay.
Perfect. Got it all. 923-1450, 1-888-900-1450. We got to get one more break in here before the top of the hour. And Ron's going to tell us about Rademann's being open today, right?
Yeah, Rademann's is open today. I'm sure Joe is busy out there today. So stop on out, take a look at our new showroom. Joe worked hard on it all winter long. All the new lines of pavers, retaining wall, different things like that going on in there. So you can take a look at all the different colors and we have brochures and things like that also.
KFIZ News Time, 8:55. Few more minutes left here of Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and a Landscape Company. Ron in and Patty from the Master Gardeners program here as well. And Cody's in the background. He's doing some video of us.
Yeah, well, we're doing something a little bit different this year on Landscape Smart. So, yeah, you can go on YouTube, and Nick is actually going to work on getting it on KFIZ also. But if you tuned in late and you thought you missed the show, you can actually watch it, listen or watch.
You can see behind the scenes.
You can see the behind the scenes. And so, yeah, Cody's been helping us out here now, and it's on YouTube. You can search for Landscape Smart, and I guess it's season 24.
Yeah.
Or Nick's going to try and get it up on KFIZ here too with a link. So going forward, and you'll find last week's episode and for sure in this week's episode coming up here real soon now too. So and just kind of keep in mind, everything is timely.
Yes.
And so if you're listening to an episode that's 2 or 3 weeks ago, make sure you're listening to what we're talking about to do next week or the following week, not what you should do that week, because it's, it could be too late by the time,
right.
when we say it's the best time, it could be the best time when we tape the show, but not the best time any longer. So Patty had a question too. One of the things, if you do stop out to Rademann's, take a picture of your house, and then, Joe can help you out with that. He knows we have different blends of decorative stone, what looks good with your house and it can be, a combination of the siding, the roof, shutters, we kind of work with all that to pick out the best decorative stone or colors of landscape mulch, and so you can work together. So bring a picture along, and that kind of helps even with the patio, pavers and things like that.
All right, we got one more question to sneak in here before the top of the hour.
Okay.
And I might butcher this name. How to trim Heuchera?
Heuchera.
I was close. Heuchera, coral bells and foamy bells.
Well, those generally do kind of die back over the winter. They still would have some leaves, but they might just end up being brown on the edges and things like that. You can just trim them right back, and they'll sprout new growth right in the center of the crown.
Almost clean off the dead leaves and then just let the new leaves reemerge on Heuchera.
If they need any new ones, we're going to have some at our Master Gardener plant sale.
Oh, good.
Which is going to be May 11th from 9 to 3 p.m. So it's going to be a great day, and people can bring their containers again this year, and I'll design and plant their containers for them if they like.
And where is it located?
It's located at Fond du Lac County Fairgrounds at the Cow Palace.
All right. So we're just about ready to...
May 11th, so less than a month away now.
Yes. It's exciting.
All right. We're just about ready to wrap up the show here, Ron.
So, again, Rademann's is open today, but we're already overbooked on deliveries, so you can call in and get a delivery for next week, but not for today any longer. Sorry about that.
They can come and shop, though.
But you can still come and look, and get things planned out for next week, next month, things like that. So stop on out. We're just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, just off Highway 41, east on County B.
All right. Have yourselves a great week and good weekend. It's going to be beautiful out there.
Yeah, be fun.
Yes.
All right. You've been listening to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company on News Talk 1450 KFIZ and 100.7 FM.